Hello everybody and welcome to another video. I am going to be in this video updating slash fixing my mining rig from my last video. This $6,000 LHR 3060 Ti mining rig. I saw your comments, I heard your comments, I did more research, and so this is my update video to that. I have now acquired a 1600 watt power supply, so this fixes the one issue that was brought up, that a 3060 Ti has a TDP, a maximum power usage of 200 watts. So 6 GPUs, that was 1200 watts, plus the power to run the CPU and the other components could be 1000 watts or so. And so if my rig ran at 100%, it could exceed the total maximum wattage of that 1300 watt power supply I was using. And it is recommended, as I know, to run a power supply at about 80% capacity. So my original thinking with that other rig was I was going to be downclocking everything anyways, only running the GPUs at about 60-65% power. So my estimations and my monitoring, because I do monitor the rig out there, the rig was only pulling 900 watts, maybe like 950 or something like that. But the great point was, if something happens and it boots up and the overclocks don't kick in, the underclocks don't kick in, then the rig could just run at 100% and burn itself up. So thank you for that. That was a great, just checking myself on that. The other thing was the usage of SATA and the Molex connectors to power the riser cards. So I, again, knew that the card itself was going to be only pulling a certain amount of wattage, and so figure that the riser card would not need to power any extra power to it. But again, in all safety, knowing that now that the PCIe riser cards can pull up to 75 watts in power, meaning that that card, the protocol of that, can request 75 watts, and if it does, it has to pull 75 watts of power through the cable. SATA cables are not rated for that. They're only rated for 54 watts. Molex cables apparently are kind of up in the air, depending on who makes them, what they're actually rated for. But in either case, the recommended way to connect that is to use a 6-pin power cable, which are rated for 275 watts. I saw some places say 300 watts, but I'm going to say 275 watts to be safe. So those were the two issues. This is my solution to fix it. Now, technically, I could run the GPU and the riser off of a single 8-pin. If the GPU can pull a maximum of 200 watts and the riser card a maximum of 75, that single 8-pin should be able to support it under full load. However, with this power supply, the way I'm going to be setting it up, just to be extra cautious, as I did notice that those 3 GB cards I had, on the Gigabyte website, in parentheses, it had a 225 watt, like asterisk, like the card is rated for 200, but it had some note of 225. I didn't read it completely, but I'm assuming because it's an overclock edition, maybe there's some way that card can actually pull 225 watts. So here's what we're doing. This power supply has 9 VGA 8-pin plugs and 1600 watts. So that should give me the 1600 watts. If the whole thing maxes out, we shouldn't exceed 1600 watts. Generally, that it's going to still be running around that 900 watts, so this should be more than capable of powering that and handling a spike of power if it were to occur. I'm going to run each GPU off its own VGA 8-pin, like I am currently with the current graphics card, and then using the other 3 VGAs to split them and to run the riser cards. So 2 riser cards will run off of one 8-pin split into 2 6-pins. So that'll give plenty of power there. So let's get all this stuff moved down out of the way. And let's bring up the mining rig. Here it is. Still pretty much how it looked in the last video. Minus a little bit of dust it has gathered. So what we're going to be doing is pulling out this power supply here. Let me get this down so you can. Alright, so let's jump in. First thing is to unplug everything that is currently plugged in. I do apologize for the lighting. It's kind of overcast out today. I have one studio light in here, but it's actually just causing some shadows, so it is what it is. So let's get all these unplugged. Now we gotta get all these riser cards unplugged. Okay, those are unplugged. I do question why the risers even come with those plugs if they're not rated for the power they could pull. That just seems like obviously people trying to get around the system. Should have done my research myself, but you know, you would kind of hope when people build stuff like that, they build it for the spec. But I guess there might be use cases where you're not going to pull 75 watts and people just want to have that functionality. But okay, we got to unplug the motherboard and everything too, because we are replacing the whole power supply. So all these other plugs need to come out as well. I believe everything is disconnected now. I guess I don't have to unplug all these from the back of the PSU here. Let me just get all these cables. Oh, I got my disk drive here that needs unplugged. I need to mount this too. It's just hanging out the back. Maybe I'll do that. Okay. Believe that is all the cables. Now we need to just unscrew the power supply from the back. Okay. And now we should be able to just slide this out. There we go. So that is now pulled out. I am going to be using this power supply probably in the next video after this to upgrade my first mining rig. My first mining rig was 3 3060 Ti's and a 1060 6 gig. So I should be able to power that with this power supply actually really nicely. And yeah, that mining rig is currently using 2 power supplies, so this will actually clean it up quite nicely. This thing sits out in my garage, which is not too dusty, but definitely I can see after it's been out there about 30 days or so. And it did have a little bit of dust on it, so I'll probably need to clean it every couple months just to keep that clean. Okay, new power supply now. I've already shown you the ports, show them to me again. Nice and close up so you can see the 9 VGA 8 pins. We've got the 2 8-pin CPUs. We only need one of those for this motherboard. And the Molex, which are the peripheral and the SATA connectors, we will not be using to power any of the graphics cards. We will just be using one of those to power our solid state drive. So now we go ahead and slide this new one in. And let's go ahead and fasten it up. Okay, so that is mounted here on the back. I will show you that here real quick. There's the back side. So that is all mounted in there now. I don't know if that was in my last video or not, but I did add a little wireless adapter. I just don't have a way to run Ethernet right now into my garage. Future project maybe, but it works for now. So I'm going to go ahead and get the motherboard power plugged in. Do our 8-pin to the motherboard header here. Or the CPU, I guess, is what that is specifically powering. Okay, and then these are all going to feed back over here. And then we have our motherboard connector, which is on the other side. So I'll flip you back around here. Okay, that cable's all the way in now. This runs over here and plugs into the 2 motherboard connectors. I'll go ahead and plug those in real quick. Over here. Alright, now begins the fun part. wiring up all the graphics cards and then all of the riser cards. So we're going to get these plugged into our 3 GB cards. Alright, the 8-pin to 8-pin and 6-pin are connected. And then I have 3 of the GPUs only need a single 8-pin. So I'm going to use the single 8-pin cables for those. Just straight 8-pin to 8-pin. Alright, so that's the graphics cards. Now we need to connect the riser cards using 6-pin back to the power supply so that we have that proper power supportage on those. So we're going to jump into that next. Okay, so I ran one of these. I'm just trying to see how difficult that would be to plug in with the GPU still on the risers. A bit difficult. So you can kind of see in there. There's the riser with the USB. The 6-pin is right on the back of it. All right, and there's the other one. So the good thing is those are right on the back of the card, so it's just sliding them up underneath here, plugging them in, running it right along the USB. I'm using these cables I got here. I'll link them in the description. What are they? They're from Team Profit. I guess if any of you guys know anything good or bad about this company, let me know. I had used it before. It seemed to be a pretty decent cable. It was not cheap. I mean, I think those were $18 or $16, $18 a cable, which either means I got ripped off if this is a bad cable, or I'm hoping, based upon what I saw on Amazon, that these are actually maybe decent cables. So, love any opinions on that, if I am mistaken in any way here. But then these will get plugged into the power supply in the PCIe slots. So this one cable, 8-pin cable, should be rated for 200 watts. Obviously these are only 6-pin connectors in here, but I mean that's the highest highest rated I can get into the PCI cards. So this should fix the problem. No SATA, no Molex going into the risers. GPUs running off of their own individual, not split PCIe. So they have a dedicated 275 watts or so if they needed it, and then sharing one of these 8 pins on 2 riser cards. So if they can pull 75 watts each, that's 150 watts maximum that would be pulled through this cable. So now I need to do the same thing, but on all these other cards. So that's probably gonna take me a little bit of time to feed it in there. Let me show you on one of these other cards. And picking this thing up is, there we go. Okay, so you can see in the back of the riser, you can see those 8-pin or 6-pin Molex connectors for the PCI riser card in the back, right next to that USB. So that's where I'm sliding in these power cables, is in the back there. So let me go ahead and do that, and I will be right back. All the risers are plugged in using 3 of the 8-pin PCIes. I did also mount, man, so much black you can barely see it, but I did mount the solid state right here, and went ahead and ran the SATA power for that. So now what is left is to plug in our GPUs. I use these other cables. I thought this was just kind of helpful to be able to visually see how the risers were powered, and then all these cables are the ones for the GPUs. So now we just need to get them all plugged in here. Alright, we are all wired up. So there's all 6 GPUs plugged into their own 8-pin connector on the power supply, and then the risers sharing 3 other 8 pins. So I believe we are ready to boot this thing back up, make sure everything works as expected, and then we should be running a much more efficient, safer 6 GPU mining rig here. the other power supply, like I said, I'll be making another video on that shortly. I feel like I just have to talk to you through the cards here. I'm going to be actually upgrading another mining rig with that. So stay tuned for that. So let's go plug this thing on and make sure it boots up properly. Alright, getting ready to boot this back up. You'll hear my cat out here, right? She likes it because it's warm out here, I think. Alright, so we've got this beastly plug. So that's all powered up. I've got my mouse monitor plugged in. It's going to power her up. There we go. Flip on the switch. And there we go. All the riser cards are on. We're getting our BIOS. Sorry, the video quality here is not great. I'm actually using a pretty cheap cell phone right now as I'm waiting on my Pixel 6 to come in. So stay tuned for a review on the Pixel. Actually, it's the Pixel 6 Pro. So probably we'll do a review of that, right? Alright, we just need a nice hash miner to come up. I am looking at doing something like Hive OS. I know there's probably some better ways, especially with these light hash rate cards, maybe to do mining. This isn't Quick Miner, it's a nice hash miner, so I am using Kapow, Octopus, better algorithms to maximize the mining on these cards. And make sure we're getting hash rate out of them all. There we go. Alright, so we seem to be back up and running. Let me get my floor fan hung up here. These things like to get real hot real quick. I think we're up and running. We'll make sure this is stable. Actually, I'll pull up the power usage on my app here too. There we go, the fans are starting to kick on. And we'll end this video here in just a moment. Alright, so everything is up and running. This is the app I use to monitor the power usage going to that specific mining rig. So we are at just about 850 watts currently mining. So we're well under the 1600 watts that has, but as we talked about, with those 6 cards, it's 2000 times 6, so that's 1200 watts. Add another 100, 150 or so. So even if this unit now runs at 100% capacity, we have a power supply that can at least support it, and it is constantly running well under the 80% recommendation for the power supply. So appreciate everyone who commented on my last video and pointed out those 2 things with the power supply and the cables for the risers. Hopefully that is fixed now. If there's anything else I have missed, please leave it in the comments below. And like I said, my next video will probably be me going back now and updating my first mining rig. So stay tuned for that video. Be sure to subscribe for more to see that video, and for more videos on technology, crypto, unboxings, and things like that. So appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.